I never understood the 3rd of Tishri, the fast of Gedalia, because theoretically, after that day, then the Kohen Gadol separated himself 7 days before Yom HaKippurim. But for me, the Kohen Gadol separated himself on Yom Gedalia as the first day, the 3rd of Tishri, because it says 7 days before Yom HaKippurim. So for me, there were 7 days, and those are the 7 days before, and then Yom HaKippurim. It's not that the 7th day is Yom HaKippurim, but that Yom HaKippurim is the 8th day. That there were 7 days and then Yom HaKippurim. And it comes down, and many people believe, of the Torah scholars, or the analysts, that Avraham had his bris on Yom HaKippurim. Well, if that's so, then Yom HaKippurim is the 8th day, because you have your bris on the 8th day. This, in a certain sense, parallels for me the Yom Gedalia, the 3rd of Tishri, which is actually the 8th day of creation, because creation started on the 25th of Elul. So it was 7 days. Rosh Hashanah is the 6th day and 7th day of creation, when man was created. And then the 8th day of creation is Yom Gedalia, the 3rd of Tishri, which to me is the day that the Kohen Gadol gets separated. And then it says, he who eats and drinks on the 9th of Tishri is as if he fasted for 2 days on the 10th. Well, you eat and drink on Shabbos. So for me, the 9th of Tishri was the Shabbos. And the 10th of Tishri, again, the infinite level, the Shabbos Shabbaton, beyond spiritual. And that's what we have on Yom HaKippurim. Because we have those 5 things that are really 6. No eating and drinking, no wearing leather shoes, no anointing with oil, no bathing, no sexuality, no, leather skin, no leather shoes. We're like angels. And that's in the infinite level. That's in the level beyond the physical. And that's the 8, that's the letter Het. And when you break the left leg of the letter Het, you get a Hey, and that is the physical level. And that reduction is by 3 things. And whenever those reduction by 3 things, what are those 3 things? 3 things are the bris, the Mila, the Priya, and the Metzitza Hadam. And that bris, that reduction by 3 things, is also the 3 things that are so paramount in the Nazir. When the number 3 has occurred, when those 3 things happen for the Nazir, when he doesn't drink wine, doesn't cut his hair, and doesn't go with the dead body, so to speak, not in a room with a dead body, he resurrects himself into the letter Het, which is the infinite world. Het is the infinite. Number 8, like the infinity sign. And Hey is the physical, the number 5. It's really deep here that I start my separation immediately after the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And there are 7 days, and then Yom HaKippurim. And I do think that the Kohen Gadol was separated like that, and that he represents kind of Avraham, but it also represents the bris of a child. Because in my opinion, the child is born on the 3rd of Tishri, so to speak. And then you watch the child at night. You see, they have all these names for it, but it's like you're supposed to watch the child exactly the night before, the Lil Shomberon, the night of watching. And then they call it a knock watch or something. The point is, there are some who watch the child every night before the circumcision. They don't sleep at night. They watch the child, that angels, devils, evil spirits don't attack the child during the night. This isn't much different than the Kohen Gadol being watched, that it doesn't have sexual emanation, sexual discharge at night. He's watched in the same way that the child is watched before circumcision. You see? So, for me, the child is born on the 3rd of Tishri, and then he's watched till the 10th when he has his circumcision, the 8th day. Strangely enough, this 10th day is the 8th day. Because the first 2 days, which are really 1 day, are Keta and Chokmah. And if you add Keta, it's 620, and Chokmah, which is 73, that's 693, and 7 letters for Chokmah and Keta. That's 700, and 2 words, Keta, Chokmah. That's 702. That actually is Ben, is son, but it's also Shabbos, Shabbat, 702. And 702, so then we're looking at the next Shabbos, so to speak. Shabbos, Shabbatan. Bina could be considered a Shabbos, but in this kind of sense, Malkus is the Shabbos. But this is all analytical here as you look at the tree of life. And this is the great beauty here, you see, that the energy, check some of the notes I wrote this morning, is that the real energy here of Yom Kippur, you see, is in the concept of the word Yom. In another video I did how I was actually taught that the Yom makes the day. And the concept of Yom itself, because Yom is 56, has its own din of 56. Yud is 20, Vav is 12, and Mem is 80 fully spelt out. That's 112, and that's Yud Hey Vav Hey Elohim. And that is the thing of Yom HaKippurim. At the end of the day, it's Adonai Hu Ha-Elohim, or Adonai Hu Elohim, depending on what it is. And this kind of thing comes from the Yom. So the Yom itself, Yom itself gives this. And then the Ha, the Hey of Ha Kippurim, can be considered the bris of Abraham. Because the letter Hey is the bris. And those are the 5 things that make somebody physical. The 5 which are 6, because that's the spelling of the letter Hey itself. 6. Hey Aleph. But you see, my thing is that Yom HaKippurim is the 8th day, not the 7th day after. You know, it is the 8th day after Rosh Hashanah. And it's the infinite, you see. And the separation of the Kohen Gadol really starts on the 3rd, not the 4th. And this changes the religion, changes it to a deep spirituality. It changes the whole concept to blood, because the blood of the circumcision is pure and holy. And we have so little time. Don't sell out your time. Do what one is fated to do with every tick-tock. I have a little thing that I do with the word Pesach, because the last letter of Pesach is a het. So I put that into a hey. So it's Pei Samach Hey for me. And then I spell that out. And Pei is 81, Samach 120, and Hey is 6. That I get for that 207, which is or Ein Sof. So the real key is in the bris, because everything's in the bris. You see? Everything is in Yesod, everything is a sexual expression. Nothing is more of a sexual expression than Yom HaKippurim. You see? Everything comes down into the Freudian and Eros and Thanatos, into the deep secrets of sexuality. What does all this lead to? That's the secret. What's the deconstruction when one reads this? What's the underlying essence of all this? You see? What does it really mean for a Metzitza Hadam? What does the Ouroboros really mean? What's the prophetic position really mean? Is it for me to tell you? Or for you to discover these things on your own? If I tell you things, they're only words. Your body has to sensate this and feel this. You have to be able to do these things on your own and discover these things on your own. You see? If me telling you this, that's fine, but that's me. So let me see what else I've just had here as notes. I've read in the Pirkei, the Rabbi Eliezer, that Hashem sees the blood of Abraham and forgives the sins of the Jewish people. That's what happens on Yom HaKippurim. Sins of the Jewish people are forgiven by the blood of the circumcision. There's a great parallel between the fast of the firstborn of Pesach and this kind of like fasting of Gedaliah before we even fast on Yom HaKippurim. Yeah, I said that already. That the fast of Gedaliah is like the fast of the firstborn. And the whole thing is to be vigil these days until Yom Kippur. You see? Vigil of your actions, and this is the real teshuvah. Teshuvah means a return to yourself. That you weren't, it's not the return to Hashem. Teshuvah means the return to yourself. It's kind of the Nietzschean law of eternal return of the same. Teshuvah's return is the return of the same. To yourself, to what you were born with in the womb. You know, your fingertips, your fingerprints actually emanate in the womb. The fingerprints are the most individualized thing in a person. No two people have the same fingerprints. And the fingerprints recognize the sensation of touch. It's the fifth level, and the fingerprints are in the yad, the hand. And the hand is the big deal. And there's such beauty here in the recognition of this and the bodily sensations of these things as they spread down through your body. Can you recognize it? It actually occurs with each breath. Each breath is a new dimension of the potential of the self. Just like one dies in a lifetime, one dies in a year, one dies in a month, one dies in a week, every day is a death. Sleep is 1/60th of death. But the real death is every breath. The real death is every breath. You're born anew with every breath. You have a new spark of the soul with every breath. And notice how this has changed from my first, I'm at the 20-minute mark of talking. And this is like warming up to the deeper levels. And this is my hispodadot, my meditation. And as I talk, new levels are unfolding. Why? Because I've had all these breaths. All these different levels have been opened up to me. There's such beauty in that each level, each dimension, each type of breath. The 5 lobes of the lungs, with 3 and 2, the 2 on the left sharing the space with the heart. The 5 lobes of the lung parallel the letter Hey on Yom HaKippurim. The letter Hey is paralleled in the body, like this. And Teshuvah, as eternal return, has a sense of return, has a sense of circularity to it, rather than linearity. And this circularity is of a higher level. These are the surrounding lights. And these are experiential. The experience is in the body itself. And that the intellect is part of this body, but only one dimension of it. And then there's spirits that are surrounding and in the body that represent themselves in physical plane, but are in other planes also. And so when you get slapped in the face by the spirit, so he's letting you know that he's there. And as you develop, you'll be able to see these other dimensions, you see, and how they influence the physical plane. And how the levels of souls that are not material can, your soul, influence you in the physical plane. And this is the life work of the development, because you can have certain levels of yourself, but you are supposed to strive, oisek, b'torah, mitzvot. Make sure that your oisek, your work, is in the level that you, the highest levels that you are. Don't sell yourself out for a loaf of bread, for a bowl of rice, as they used to say in some show I used to watch. Don't sell yourself for a bowl of rice. Oh, dear ones, you have such an opportunity. Don't mess it up.